Okay, briefly, you're going to get a grade in this course. Does that surprise anybody? It'll be an A, a B, C, D, or an F. Okay. Hopefully, at least a C, and hopefully a lot of A's and B's. Okay. Depending on your goals. Maybe your goal is, you really want to concentrate on other courses and you want to scrape by with a C. Fine. Okay. That's your decision. I don't mind. As long as it doesn't interfere with what you do in subsequent courses. Okay. So don't feel obligated to make an A if a C is going to satisfy you. Okay. Your grade is going to be based predominantly on your performance on tests, and there'll be 3 of them. Okay. A midterm, a final, and then a test within the next few weeks. So you know what you're doing, because you really don't know how you're doing until you take a test. Tests are going to be proctored in the testing center. You're not going to have a graphing calculator because you're going to be graphing things by hand. You're going to learn how to do that today. It's really not hard. Okay. You got to learn the first steps. You're not going to have access to ChatGPT. You're not going to have access to anything online. You're going to have access to a simple calculator they give you in the testing center. Okay. That calculator do arithmetic. That's about all. We'll do symbolic algebra. I don't think it'll add fractions for you. Okay. You have to know how to add fractions. You do need to know how to add fractions. You have to know how to deal with those things, because around mid to late October, we get to these things called rational functions. And those are fractions that have polynomials for their numerators and denominators. How many of you know what a polynomial is? Okay. But if you've hit algebra 2, you've seen polynomials. Okay. In doing your homework, well, your homework is where you learn the material. Okay. In class, we prepare you to read your text and do your homework. Hopefully, read your text before you come in here, but I can't assume that. Okay. You'll learn it better if you do. Let me digress. How many of you have registered for my open math? Okay. How many of you don't have a clue what I'm talking about? It's all right, but we got to fix that today. You go to Canvas and do what it says. Okay. How many don't know how to get to Canvas? Yeah, if you don't want to admit it, talk to me after class. Okay. If you don't know how to go to Canvas, so what I'm going to tell you to do is go over to the help things over near the library, find somebody, they'll show you, because they know how it looks better than I do. They can help you better than I can. Okay. I might be able to help you. Show me what you're trying to do. I'll take a look. I might say, I don't know. Okay. They can run you through it, and they're really good. Okay. But do that today, because there's an assignment due tonight. It's like a 10 or 15-minute assignment. It's not a big one. Although I do recommend that you get started right away on the bigger assignment that'll be due tomorrow. Okay. How many of you got in? I know at least one person I think did. Got into Canvas. There were some videos that I was saying you ought to look at, but you weren't required to look at them before class or anything like that. Somebody did that and had a glitch with it. Anybody try that and have a glitch? Because I couldn't. Apparently, YouTube was telling them that they couldn't view the video because it was private. But I checked YouTube, checked all the settings and everything. It's public as heck. I tried to access it anonymously and it was right there. So I hope there's not a glitch. If there's a glitch with the technology, email me right away. Or if I'm on campus, come and, jump up and down and panic, whatever it takes, you got my attention, okay? Because I can usually fix those things very quickly. Okay, so let's see, where was I on syllabus, of course? Doing your homework. I can give an assignment. And, okay, in pre-calculus courses, if I've got a class of this size, half the class will not reliably do their homework. Okay. Now, the points you get for homework don't count that heavily in your grade, but they're about one-sixth of a letter grade. Okay. And you can get those points. You can let ChatGPT do your homework for you. You get those points. Not a good strategy for learning. If you do that and you have less than 160 IQ, and almost everybody does, especially me. If you have, unless you're just stupendously smart, smarter than anybody you've ever met, you're probably not going to learn what you need to pass the course if you let ChatGPT do your homework. Okay, you'll get those points. You'll get that 1/6 of a letter grade, and that's about all you're likely to get in the course, because you're probably going to make pretty close to zeros on the tests. Now, if you've had really good Algebra 2 courses and stuff, you probably eke out, maybe a 30 or 40. And if you've had an analysis course, maybe you already know the course. Okay, maybe you'll find it easy to get through the course. There's a variety of possibilities, okay? But the bottom line is, for almost everybody, if you don't do the homework and do it rigorously and honestly, you're not likely to pass the course. And you're certainly not going to do as well as you could, even if you do manage to pass, okay? So don't bypass the learning process when you do your homework. Write everything out. Don't sit there looking at a video while you do a problem. Look at the video before you do a problem. Learn what the video is telling you. Put the video away, do the problem. If you screw it up, I'll see that. Usually the problems, you're doing homework in an online thing, and it's easy to learn. The assignment today is basically get into that online thing and do the introduction. Okay, about 15 minutes. If you're slow, maybe 30, but probably not. Write out your solution on paper. Okay, because write out every step. That reinforces the steps. And I think, as I said in the previous class, it gives you more power to understand things, to do problems that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do. Write them out. Enter your stuff into the thing. Your goal is not the points, although that can be helpful. Your goal is to learn how to do these problems, to learn the mathematics, not to imitate what you see in the video or in this example. Okay? Now, a good strategy could be, if you watch a video, you still don't know how to do it, get ChatGPT to generate a few problems of that type. Maybe, a dozen problems. Tell ChatGPT to generate me a dozen linear equations of progressive difficulty and show me this detailed solution to every other one. And give me the answer to the others. Okay? That would be a good use of an AI. Okay? Terrible use of an AI is use it to get the right answer without learning anything. It's not a good strategy. You can think about that. Okay? People will do that because there's a lot of self-delusion in human nature. Okay, I don't want to get all philosophical about human nature. I'm no expert, but I've seen enough to know that people will, in desperation for points, bypass learning. Points aren't that many. Use the homework to learn. Because you're going to come into class next time, and I'm going to quiz you on the very type of problems you did for homework. Okay? That makes sense? So you're going to get equal points for the quiz that you would for the homework, and you're going to sacrifice those if you didn't learn the homework. Now, sometimes you won't learn the homework. Sometimes it's kind of hard. You'll learn some of it. You know, then when I see that, okay, people are having trouble with this, well, try to reconcile that in class. Okay? Make sure you do the homework in the way that supports learning. We'll get much more success out of this class. Okay. So homework and quizzes, about 3% of your grade. Okay. 3% is about almost a third of a letter grade. That can be significant. So you want to get those points, but you want to get them all. So use the homework to learn to do what you're going to have to do in the quiz, right? And then when you come up to a test, you do things like review. It's somehow, the last couple of years, and I think COVID has a lot to do with it, people don't seem to understand you got to review for a test. Okay? So, yeah, we'll be talking about that. Get yourself straight on that idea. Also get yourself straight on the idea you're probably going to need to spend, I would plan on spending at least 6 hours a week in homework in this course. 2 hours a week in class, 6 hours a week in homework, 8 hours. That's a third of a full-time 40-hour job. Not a third, that's a fifth of a full-time job. If being a student is a full-time job, you have 5 courses. You need to be spending an average of 8 hours a week on courses. Some courses you get by with less. This isn't one of them. That depends. I mean, again, depends on how well prepared you are for this course. If you've had really good courses and done really well in them, you can almost certainly get by with less. But don't plan on it. Okay? Okay. Now I want to address the question of whether you put yourself into the correct course. Okay? We don't want you to be in this course if you don't have a reasonable combination of background and performance to succeed. There is an optional advising tool that you can use. You can use it anonymously. You can call yourself anything. Okay. You can call yourself Vladimir Putin if you want to. Okay. I don't care. I don't care if Vladimir Putin uses this thing. Okay. Just to pick a Vladimir Putin. But it gives you problems to work, tells you how you did, and tells you where we think you ought to be. To make 75% or better, you're probably good for this course. 50 to 75%, you probably ought to be in the course that meets right before this, as well as this. Okay? The support course where we can give you a lot of additional help. Okay? Now you have tutors, they're great. They can give you additional help on the prerequisite courses, okay? So you can get help in various ways, but that course, I really recommend that course if it turns out that it's indicated that you need it. I would drop another course in my curriculum, preferably one that you can then pick up in the summer or something, just to take that course. Because I don't want to scare anybody away because I want everybody to stay in here and succeed, okay? But if you find out in a month that you're in over your head here, maybe because you don't have time, you got life, you got a job, family, kids, maybe. There are all kinds of reasons you can find out that you don't have the time or didn't have the background to succeed in this course, okay? You want to get that background if you don't already have it, all right? So I really advise you to do that. And if you want to share the results with me, you want to talk to me about it, talk to me about the best thing is, we can do that, okay? Glad to do that. All right, want to make sure you're in the right place because you can get yourself messed up from the very beginning if you're in the wrong place. Now, when I say that, usually the people who are best prepared are the ones that decide they need that support course, and probably they don't, okay? And the ones who aren't are self-deluded about what they think they know, okay? But you're going to get some feedback on that. And it's going to be possible to get into that course even after enrollment ends. It's possible for, 2 weeks or so after enrollment ends, it's possible to get into that course. And there's a distance version of that course we can't sit in on, okay? Sitting in is better, but we address the distance. It's the first time we've done that. I'm trying to figure out exactly how to do it because I got a number of students in that. Trying to figure out what's going to work best for the students, okay? Since we haven't done it before. All right, well, there's that. Now, in this course, I've redesigned it because I'm assuming that most of you need a pretty good refresher on algebra. And there's a lot of algebra in this course, and it causes a stumbling block. Now, the algebra is not the main point of the course. The behavior of functions is the focus of this course. So what we're going to do starting today is we're going to learn how to draw the shapes of functions, okay? And learn those shapes, because I think you're going to find that's really easy. And of course, I'm going to quiz you on it next time. There's a sequence of 4 videos. 3 of them are going to be assigned for next time, so plan on spending an hour on those videos if you don't pick it all up in class. But I think a lot of you are going to just pick it up in class and be able to do it, okay? Like, for example, if you had a square sheet of paper, could you tear it in half vertically? More or less? Or cut it, or even measure it? You could do that, right? Oh, that's a good start. Could you take each of those halves and tear it in half vertically? And the other half? How many would you have? Then show me with your fingers. I gave it away. Okay, it's 4. I think everybody knew that. If you didn't, you probably just didn't quite hear it because I know you know it. Okay? Then you cut all those in half horizontally, right? You then cut each half in half. Or maybe you cut it in half horizontally and cut the lower half in half. Could you do that? Could you then cut the lower half of that in half? Could you cut the lower half of that in half? How many more times could you do that before you get down to the molecular level? Not as many as you'd think. I think 20 times might do it. 30 certainly would. Okay. Okay. Just again, if you can do that and follow a couple other simple instructions that we're going to do here, and I'm going to have you do on paper so I can walk around and see how people are doing with it. Okay. Then you can draw the shape of a quadratic function, or the shape of an exponential function, or the shape of a reciprocal function. Those 3 functions are the basis for 90% of the math you're ever going to learn. If you know their shapes, you know something about them, even though you never did anything with any numbers or any algebra. No numbers even, okay? Then later we put numbers on them and we start doing algebra with them. But first, while we're playing with those pictures and doing some things with them, they're a little more complicated than what I said, but we're starting just by doing them. we start putting the numbers and the algebra together with the pictures. Got to do that for about 3 weeks. We're going to have a test. Okay, that's a strategy. And we're not going to be doing the text assignments until we're ready to understand and do the algebra. I don't want, what happens at the beginning for a calculus course, we start with the text assignments. The text assignments assume you've had algebra 2 and you haven't. Maybe you were in the class, but maybe you really didn't have it because COVID prevented your teachers from really getting it done, right? And maybe you just didn't work very hard. You know, maybe you weren't interested. It's hard to, yeah, I've got a grandson, he's 10 years old. It's hard to get him interested in that. He's good with math and science. Hard to get him interested in much of anything else. And so, you know, it's a struggle. It's a struggle to learn something if you're not that interested in it. I had to make myself learn history when I was in high school, college, you know. It was just too much reading, it was boring. Now I know a little bit, I find it pretty darn interesting. It's taken me about 100 years to get there though, okay? So, you know, everybody's got their interests. Well, there's other stuff in the syllabus that I'll just mention. There's, if you got a disability, we got disability services in that hall, right? Just go right through that wall and another one and you're in there. Don't go through that one, it's the women's restroom, but you know, don't go through the wall. Go down the hall into that. Then you got offices along there, and any of those people can help you or tell you who to go to if you need help. Okay, counselors. So if you've got a disability, make sure they know about it so they can tell me so we can deal with it. Okay. We have procedures for campus emergencies. Tornadoes coming, active shooter. Okay. Those aren't things you really need to worry much about. I wouldn't worry about them. Then you want to be prepared for them. You know, there's low chance you'll ever be in a tornado if you're in this area. Okay. But if one comes along, you're going to want to know what to do. And they have come along. We've had them skip over the top of this building. One didn't quite skip, it kind of hit the top of the nursing building over there. Kind of trashed a little bit of the roof. Only took about a week to get it repaired. It wasn't a bad one. Wouldn't hurt anybody. But they happen. Active shooters, we haven't seen that, and the chances are really low. But you do need to know, you know, if the active shooter comes along, what do you do? We close the door, you grab something heavy to beat them with. Okay, get along that wall because it's hard to shoot that way. Okay. Got a 75-pound block of iron down there. Strongest guy gets to hit him with that. Okay, or strongest person. And I'm not assuming it's a guy, but most of the guys in here look bigger than women, and you know, probably strong. That's not really a word, but you do want to know how to contact campus security, stuff like that. Probably found out in orientation, you know, if it's late at night and you don't feel secure going out to your car, call campus security, they'll walk you out. They're good guys. Every one of them. Okay. And mental health. You know, life can overwhelm you. If you have issues, talk to these people. Okay. They can connect you with professionals. Okay. You can be very, very helpful. Okay. And I've got a daughter that happens to be one of those people. But all the people, she knows them all. They're all really good. I had an encounter at the gym with an ex-student who was out there. Okay. There just happened to be one of those counselors in the gym. And he was really good. I recognized as soon as I was there too. Finally, didn't recognize me, got a little calmer, but he's the one that handled it. Okay. He's a good guy. I mean, the student. It happens. So you know, I encourage you to talk to somebody if you're having problems. Yeah, maybe just classes over, you're worried about your future. You got to get somebody to bring you back to the reality. Okay. It's not going to be me because I'm not a professional. Okay. I'll tell you who to talk to. All right. You know. All right. Now, let me just give you a chance to ask questions. Okay. So what I did last, everybody would draw a square in the paper. Everybody did a nice job. Your squares are probably better than mine. Okay. But this is good enough. And really, I could draw a perfect square, but I don't like to show off at the beginning of class. Okay. Now, I said divide each half, or divide the square in half with a vertical line. Now, I'm going to use a dotted line because that's what we're going to end up using. Now, you know, is that a good half? On a 1 to 10 scale, how well did I do at doing half? Show me with your fingers. Oh, come on, y'all are being way too generous. This half is bigger than this half. I can see that. Okay. Don't hesitate to hurt my feelings. It's okay. I'm a good guy. Yeah, yeah. Listen, I'm growing up. Okay. Fair enough. All right. Now I said divide each of these halves in half. I didn't say with a vertical line or horizontal line. So some people did vertical lines, which would look like this. Okay. And some people did horizontal lines. Well, we're going to do a horizontal line in a minute. I'll keep the vertical lines there. Okay. If you got horizontal lines, that's okay. Just fine. But these are vertical lines. Okay. At this point, and I think everybody's got those lines in their paper. Am I right? And they look pretty good. And some of them are a little uneven. As far as being even, I give myself about a 3. Okay. And you want to try to make them as accurate as you can. But mostly did a pretty accurate job. If they're uneven, that's okay. Practice. Doesn't take much. Give a little more attention. Fairly easy to do. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to divide each of the rectangles that's closest to the center line in half with a vertical line. Now, I'm going to write that down because it's a lot of words to process. Okay. Write way too many words. But divide each vertical rectangle closest to the center line in half with another vertical rectangle, with another vertical line size. Okay. Understand what that means? Just test process of words. Let me just see how people have done. Use dotted lines. Good. Yeah, I did say use dotted lines. You're doing good because you're in technique. Try to make a line little short, but it's okay. Just so I can see them quickly, so I can, so I get around the. Okay, now most of you have done this correctly. It's about almost half and half. Some people did a little more than what I said, but almost everybody did what I said. Okay. Okay, gee, I should have had the cameras running during all that. And it was unnecessary. I should have paused that because it makes the video longer. There's nothing to really see. But still, okay, there we have it. Okay, so this a rectangle that's closest to the center. So let's just concentrate on closest to the center. Okay, closest to the center line. Okay, is this a rectangle that you would say is closest to the center? Yeah, because right there's the center. That's part of the boundary of the rectangle. So it's this one that you would want to cut it out. But not this one. If you cut this one in half, that's sort of harmless, but you really don't want to do that. Okay. It's actually sort of harmful for the instructions that we're going to have. So you really don't want that line there right now. And of course, this rectangle here is closest to the center. Okay. So that's the picture you want. Right? Okay. Got it? Okay. I'm going to hide that, draw another rectangle and do everything I just said. And I'm going to pause the video while I look at what you're doing. Okay, I think everybody's got this. At this point, you're going to have to remember it. You're going to have to practice doing it. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to cut it horizontally, right? I'll do that one for you, because a lot of you have already done that. And again, I think my having is getting deteriorating or something. Okay. Make sense? I'm assuming everybody's got it. I'm not going to circulate and look at this one, but I'm going to circulate and look at the next one. So what I want you to do is I want you to divide the lower rectangle in half, the lowest rectangle in half. Okay. Oh, I'm going to make me go on the those. That's not fair. Okay. Then what was my last instruction? It was divide the lowest rectangle in half, right? Well, now you got a new picture, and I want you to divide the lowest rectangle of this picture in half. Then I'm going to want you to do it once more. Good. Everybody's doing real well. I hope. Because first test is maybe follow instructions. Okay. And that's looking really good. Make them better happen. Let's try that. Great look at everybody because your record is quite small. Okay, so once more. This time, I want you to draw the biggest square you can on your paper and do all this again. I hate that I wasn't recording when I did this because I did such a good job with it. It almost never happens. Okay, well, anyhow, it's gonna go horizontal here. So half of the lower rectangle gives us this, half of that rectangle gives us this one, and half of that rectangle gives us this one. So starting at the top, well, I've got a line there. I've got a line halfway to the bottom, a line halfway from that one to the bottom, a line halfway from that one to the bottom, a line halfway from that one to the bottom. So how many dotted lines, how many horizontal dotted lines do I have? Show me with your fingers. 4. Have you got 4? Most of you do. Some of you came up a little short because I just kind of threw that last thing out verbally. But if you were short, I'm sure you got it fixed. Okay. So you got 4 dotted horizontal lines and you've got 5 dotted vertical lines, right? Now, something I would have mentioned earlier, but it doesn't matter, I can mention it now. I want a red dot. Now you don't have necessarily red pencils, although if you got something red, you can use it, but I'm going to put a red dot right here at the midpoint of the lowest edge. Okay, lower edge, lowest, that's more than 2. Okay, there's a red dot at the lower edge. Okay. All right. Now you're going to get to make a parabola. We're going to locate some points. Okay. So I want everybody to locate a point at the upper left edge, upper left corner. The upper left corner, I think everybody knows that. Okay. Now I want you to skip the next horizontal line to go to the one after that. Okay. And then you skip to the next vertical line, or if you like, skip to the next vertical line, and then skip to the second following horizontal line. Skip one horizontal line, but don't skip any vertical lines. Where do you think that point's going to be? I just want to see if you can process those words, and I'll show you in a minute to get it wrong. That looks good. Dot here, dot here, dot here. Those are all good dots. Well, actually, you skip the vertical. Don't skip the vertical. You skip the vertical. Okay, it's good attempt. Okay, I'm going to need to say this a little more clearly. Just want to see how people did with verbal instruction. A lot of people did okay, but I've seen there's some. Okay, so I'll put it in this order, and having set it in 2 different orders probably wasn't a good idea. Because that can be confusing. Okay. Say this, use the next vertical line. Okay. And skip the next horizontal line. And make a mark. I'm not going to write out, make a mark, but that's what you would do. Okay. Now, if you do that, tell me when I get to the next vertical line, which way do I have to go? Right, left, or up or down? Okay. Okay. I should have said that. Okay. You go to the right. Okay. So I'm going to the right. Tell me when to stop. Just raise your hand when you think I should stop. Did you just raise your hand? Okay, well, okay, there we go. Yeah, I thought I was about there, so that was good. From your angle, That was only about an eighth of an inch away, so that was good. Okay. There's the next vertical line. So we're going to use this line, right? Now we're going to skip a horizontal line. There's only one way to go. So we're going to skip this one and go to this one. And that's where we're going to make the mark. Now this is all in the video in gory detail. You're picking it up much more quickly than you probably would from the video because it takes a while to get through the video, okay? But the video's going to be there. It'll be posted in a little while. Okay, and then we're going to do this again. I'm going to say repeat. Repeat the instruction from the picture you now have. You're at the new point. You're going to go to the next vertical line, skip down a horizontal line, right? Skip horizontal. Yeah. Where's the next one? And then skip one. Yeah, that's it. Okay. You don't want that. But you had the right. So you not only looked at half the class, but almost everybody had it. And anybody didn't have it was really close. All right. So now we skip to the next vertical line. We skip a horizontal line. That's going to put us here. So we followed that instructions twice, right? Okay. And I've been using X's. You all been using dots. That's fine. Whatever mark you want to make. Okay. Now, the abbreviated, run a little short on time, a couple of things they want to get to. And it says symmetric points on right. How many think they might know what I'm talking about? Okay. So put the tip of your pencil on one of the points that you think would be described by this. I just want to see how quickly you can pick it up. I'll explain here. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, if you've got it, well, it's a mirror image. And I think you're well versed with mirror image. You know what the word symmetric means. That's what I was kind of testing. Okay, and if you don't, I'll tell you. If this is a mirror, this center line is a mirror, then the point symmetric with this one is this one. That makes sense? Just about everybody had that, but I just want to make sense for sure everybody has vocabulary and understands the words. I think you understand symmetry, mirror image. And that's good. You never know for sure, so I've got to test it. So anyhow, we're going to get a point here. And then we're going to get a point up there. Okay. At this time, at this point, you can draw a smooth curve through the points, including the red dot. And you're going to get a nice parabola. Probably nicer than mine because most of you have much better squares than I do. Okay. You're being more careful. So see if you draw a curve. Start at the upper left-hand corner and then move from point to point with a smooth curve, not a broken line, a smooth curve. Good. You weren't done, but I could already tell it was going to be good. Oh, okay, okay. Man, if I had to judge these, I'd be envious. In second place, I'd have trouble deciding which one's the best. All look good. Okay. Oh, man. That's what I hope to see. Okay. Now, well, that came out better than they usually do. But I kind of missed a couple of points. On the board, my hand gets in the way. I can't see what the name of that. So it's a little lopsided. Okay. No, that's a very good parabola. Yours are better than mine. Okay. Okay. So now you're going to practice to where you come in for a quiz next time. I'm going to ask you to do this, right? And you're going to do it fairly quickly because we don't have to take a lot of class time. So you don't have to be quite as meticulous as you were. Some people can't help being meticulous. So if you can't help being meticulous, practice being meticulous pretty quickly to where you can do this whole thing in a minute. I don't see any reason anybody in here can't do that. Okay. Now there are two more. So without too much comment, I'm going to go ahead and draw them quickly because I think you're prepared to be able to do this. Now the videos do it. It takes about 50 minutes to do the video. My instructions, and you're following my instructions, haven't taken, I think the first video is about 15 minutes. I gave you those instructions. If I give you those instructions in 5 minutes and you take the time to do it, we're going to get this done in 15 minutes, right? Took a little longer than that because I wanted to make sure, and there are a lot of people to circulate. Okay. Okay, this is the toolkit square. Now there's a formula for this thing, and you can make a table, but you wouldn't know what points to use to make the table. Okay, unless I told you. And you wouldn't be able to do all the arithmetic. Most of you would screw up at least one thing in the arithmetic even for this one, okay? Because it involves fractions. Now I say most of you, you all look pretty good. So it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of you, most of you could do it. But we're not going to assume that. We're not going to assume the arithmetic, but we're going to develop that. Okay, so here's another one. Okay, I'm done with the verticals. What's the difference? Well, I don't want you to talk right now. We don't want to take time to pause. We only got about 4 minutes left, but it's the same as what we did here, except they didn't cut this one in half because I don't need it. Okay. This is the toolkit exponential. Function. Now I cut it horizontally just exactly the same way. I did the squaring function, okay? So horizontal grid is exactly the same, and the red dot is still in the midpoint of the base. I did this kind of quick. This line is a little bit low, but we're going to live with it. Okay. Now watch carefully. You got to know where to start. Where you start is where that lowest line crosses the left edge. Okay. And I'm not going to give you time to do it, but if you can do it while I'm doing your rule then is, and if you've got it wrong, go ahead. You just move one to the right, one up. Okay. And there's your rule. So you just move one line to the right, one line up, one line to the right, one line up, one line to the right, one line up, one line to the right, and all the way up to the upper corner. And you sketch a nice smooth curve. Okay, well, that curve could be labeled in such a way as to predict how much money you're going to have after 40 years if you invest so much money at a certain interest rate now. So it's real relevant. The squaring function, you got a business. The more you charge, fewer people are going to buy this thing. But if you don't charge enough, there aren't enough people to help you make a profit, right? Charge too much, it's bad. Charge too little, it's bad. Take that parabola, turn it upside down, figure out where the peak is. That's where you need to set your price. Now we'll talk about the details that you don't need to know that. I'm just telling you, these things have real important meanings. The typical optimization problem involves that parabola to optimize anything. Okay. Now that you can refine it with other functions and so forth, and we'll learn enough about functions to do some of that. It's very relevant. It's very important. You got to have the algebra and the symbols. Okay. Now the toolkit reciprocal function. Doing this really quick. The same as vertical, it's the same as the toolkit scoring function. Okay. Horizontally, of course, we do a horizontal line through the middle, kind of always do that. This time the red dot goes here. I want to explain about the red dot. We're going to show what happens if you put these things on a set of XY coordinate axes and put coordinates on it. Okay. And one other thing I didn't mention, these squares are all 4 by 4. You'll see that if you take a look at the videos. Okay, so what I do down here is this. What I'm doing, I could say I divide the lower half in half, and then I take the rectangle closer to the center line and divide it in half. Okay, you've done that already, but with vertical. Okay, in other words, the rule for the horizontal is identical to the rule for the vertical. Then it's dark here. I could describe that in words, but I'm not going to ask you to interpret things. Okay. And there's a symmetry to this. Once you've got this point, you can go through the red dot and you're going to get to this point. So this point is symmetric with respect to the red dot to this point. Does that make sense? That's a simple symmetry to see. And then I've got a symmetry here. If I rotate this thing, well, I got to rotate it this way, but if I rotate it the right way, I get a point down here and a point up here. Okay. Then I get a point here and a point here. We can state the rule. It's stated in the video. I do want you to get the details of the construction of the reciprocal function. Get that from the video, but there's also a transcript. When you access the video, there's a description. And I think the description gets too long on that one. So I give you a link to find a text file of the description. If you follow the directions, you get it. Anyhow. Graph looks like this. Now, big deal about this graph. I'll just state this big deal, then you go. Okay. If I go to the point twice as close to the center, I go from here to here. Every one of these, or each of these lines is twice as close to the center as the one before, right? Because of the way you divided it. Everybody's divided it, so I think you can understand that. If not, go back to the video at the end of the video and listen to what I said and deconstruct it, okay? I go twice as close. I go twice as far. from this center line. So this one's twice as far from the center line as this one. Then I go twice as close, I go twice as far from the center line. I could go twice as close as that and twice as far, give me a point down here. I could keep doing that forever, right? If I keep going twice as close to the center line, I never get to the center line. Okay? Well, that's why division by zero isn't defined. I'll make that connection later, but that's why. That's an explanation of something that's a rule that nobody ever remembers. Real important. Same thing over here. So you don't try to connect this point to this point, right? Because if this graph is extended, the points keep going down faster and faster. You get an asymptote to that vertical line. That's what an asymptote is without doing any calculations. And the same thing from this side, you get an asymptote up here. You got two branches of this thing and they never go through the center line. Okay? So you don't try to connect anything on the left, anything on the right. That makes sense? Well, I kind of stressed that in the video. So you want to be able to do all three of these. That's what I'm going to ask you. Okay? Then I'll probably give you a chance to show off and ask you a few other questions, but just to see how much you understand about the process. But full credit if you just do these three things in about 5 minutes. Okay.